In Worcester, Massachusetts, are the remains of what was once the first public psychiatric hospital in the state. Originally opened in 1833, the Worcester Insane Asylum soon became overcrowded, and in 1870, construction began on an amazing castle-like looking structure known as a Kirkbride building. Today, most of the Kirkbride, in fact, pretty much all of the Kirkbride, with the exception of the clock tower, which was redeveloped, and the Hooper turret, have been demolished. Here's a view of the clock tower, which was reconstructed. The building I'm currently in is the Hale nurses' dorm. The nurses' dorm was opened in 1903. It wasn't uncommon for nurses and staff that worked at the hospital to live there also, and this was their residence. This building was one of the last remaining structures from the original Worcester State Hospital. It was on the National Historic Registry, and the public wanted to save it. Despite this, it was still demolished. The Worcester Historical Commission voted to allow the Worcester Business Development Corporation to knock the building down so that they could use the land to build a massive biomanufacturing facility. It was upon hearing this news that the building was in the process of being demolished that set me and my friend on a mission to document the Hale nurses' dorm. I think it's so important to see what these structures looked like in order to honor the hard work of the nurses that had once worked at Worcester State Hospital. It's hard to find stories and information about what it was like here in the past, but looking into these buildings can give us some kind of idea. At least we know now that after a day's work, this is what the nurses would have seen. This is an interesting area. Here I found a staircase that abruptly stops. If you look over to the left, there's the remnants of where a phone used to be. And on the wall are all types of names and dates that were written. Remnants of the past. It's finding stuff like this that makes it worth it for me to explore a building. A lot of people will say, that this building's in the process of being demolished and that it's empty inside. And that might be true, and it would have been cooler to see what it looked like. It would have been the coolest to see what it looked like when it was still active, and to get a tour and to have the doctors and nurses explain exactly what it was like. But life's what you make it, and you can still find remnants of the past that gives us some type of a glimpse into the past. Walking down the hall, passing each room, which would have been occupied by the nurses, I am for a second taken back into time, imagining what it was once like. Here we approach the front door of the building. a view at the construction trucks that bring the impending doom. However, because of them, gave us this opportunity to get into the once completely sealed building. Here these doors read human resources. I'm assuming that that was what this building was used for after when the nurses stopped living there. Worcester State Hospital is still open to this day under the name Worcester Recovery Center. Of course, it isn't inside any historic building. In fact, the historic Kirkbride building was demolished in order to make the room for the new building. Worcester State also had a nursing school program, and it's likely that this building was used in some capacity for that. This room appears to be where they would have stored their clothes and uniforms. We now head into the basement. I can picture this room just filled with clouds of cigarette smoke. Eventually, I stumble upon the entrance to one of the underground steam tunnels located on the campus. This one leads to the direction of the power plant. I tried to walk it for its entire length, but it got progressively more tight, and I couldn't go any further. But here's me walking as far as I can get. This land had once been occupied by the Bryan Building, another Worcester State Hospital building demolished. I have a lot of photos and videos of that I'll be posting soon.
Yeah, I thought that's their fault for taking this. I'm sorry. Do you know? I don't know if they're still. I don't know. Just weird that the demos are all like caged in.
I know, man. Look at the tile work in the bathroom. They really don't put this much details into buildings anymore. Here I am looking at the Hooper turret in Worcester Recovery Center from inside Hale Nurse's dorm. A view that now no longer exists.
Let me see. It might be like this for a while. Probably.
With the daylight leaving and the sun setting on the Hale building,
Imagine they were restoring it.
its imminent demolition, which has now occurred. Here I am at the Hooper turret. This is where the original Kirkbride had once stood. Here's all that remains of that Kirkbride. I think it's so important that structures like this be saved so that we can learn from their past. And in cases where they aren't saved, I think it's important that someone documents what they can for anyone curious to see.